So, today we're diving into a really powerful movement in contemporary art. And it's doing way more than just creating beautiful things. It's actively tearing down a colonial legacy, one painting, one photo at a time.
It really all boils down to a question that sounds simple, but wow, it has some seriously complex answers. What is beauty? And for centuries, for millions of people, the power to even answer that question for themselves was just taken. Let's get into how that happened.
To really get what's happening now, you have to see this total clash of ideals. So on one side, you have pre-colonial Nigerian beauty, fuller figures meaning health and wealth, scarification as a mark of your family, and dark skin being celebrated. And on the other, a colonial ideal that was, you guessed it, the complete opposite: thinness, smooth and light skin, and straight hair.
Now, this wasn't some kind of accident or cultural blending, no way. It was a systematic effort, a very specific way of seeing the world that we now call the colonial gaze.
So how exactly did this happen? Well, it was a full-court press. You had missionary schools teaching that local traditions were primitive. You had religion being used to connect dark skin with being somehow morally flawed. Then, a nonstop flood of Western media held up white women as the one and only standard of beauty. And of course, if you played along and adopted these Western styles, you got rewarded. If you didn't, you got left behind.
And you can imagine, this had a massive psychological impact. The philosopher Frantz Fanon had a name for it: the internalization of the white gaze. It's that moment where a colonized person basically stops seeing themselves through their own eyes. Instead, they start using the colonizer's perspective, which creates this deep, painful split from their own body and their own culture.
And the results of that are so real and so lasting. That psychological wound is what fuels a multi-billion-dollar industry for skin lighting creams and hair straightening products. It's like the physical proof of that internalized idea that your natural self just isn't good enough.
So, while all of this was being forced on people, what was being lost? What rich, complex, and beautiful ideas were actively being stamped out?
You see, pre-colonial beauty wasn't just skin deep, it was absolutely packed with meaning. A fuller figure wasn't just a look, it was a sign of good health, fertility, and a prosperous family. Scarification was literally a language on the skin, telling everyone who you were and where you came from. And the body itself was seen as a home for Ase. That's a Yoruba concept for the divine life force that connects everything.
It's clear that beauty was seen as this totally holistic thing. It wasn't separate from your spiritual life or your role in the community. It was woven into the very fabric of your life.
And this is so crucial to understand. This wasn't just happening in Nigeria. Pushing this single, narrow, Eurocentric standard of beauty was a project carried out all across the African continent, wiping out countless different ways of being beautiful.
I mean, think about the Nilotic peoples of the Nile Valley, for example. Their whole aesthetic, that very dark skin, tall, lean bodies, was the complete opposite of the European ideal being pushed. Their unique beauty was just made invisible by this new, narrow definition.
But that legacy is now being directly and powerfully challenged. And the main weapon in this fight? It's art. Artists are now engaging in what's called epistemic disobedience. Right now, a new generation of Nigerian artists is on the front lines of this massive cultural reawakening. They're using their art, their paintings, sculptures, and photos to very consciously and very deliberately take apart that colonial gaze. I mean, just look at this incredible piece by Peju Elatise called Flying Girls. She's pulling from Yoruba mythology, giving these young girls wings. They're not victims here. They're powerful, they're sacred, they're rising above. And her choice to use dark resin for their skin, that's no accident. That's a deliberate, proud celebration of blackness, a direct rebuttal to that colonial obsession with lightness.
In another one of her works, Purple Period, Elatise just completely flips the whole tradition of the Western nude on its head. Forget those smooth, polished, passive bodies. Here, the body is made of these raw, tangled cords. It's about the complex, messy, but beautiful reality of identity, all of it woven together from trauma, strength, and resilience.
Okay, so another really powerful voice in this whole movement is the photographer Lakin Ogunbanwo. He comes at it from a different angle, but it's just as powerful. He focuses his camera on the very act of looking.
The key idea in his work is agency. He often uses veils, right? But not as symbols of being hidden, no. Here, they are tools of power. The subject is in total control. She's the one who decides what you see and how you see it. It's a complete reversal of that creepy, objectifying gaze you see in old colonial photos, where the person in the picture had zero power.
And in his series called Are We Good Enough? I mean, that title alone is a challenge, isn't it? The answer his photos give is a resounding yes. He shows us dark-skinned women with this incredible regal poise. He uses traditional clothing and rich fabrics to create this undeniable feeling of grandeur, reclaiming and celebrating Black beauty.
So when you pull all of this incredible art together, what does it all add up to? Well, it's about so much more than just making a statement. It's a profound act of reclamation.
And that brings us back to this really important concept: epistemic disobedience. I know it sounds a little academic, but it's exactly what these artists are doing. They are deliberately disobeying the old colonial rules of knowledge, the very systems that said one way of seeing, one type of person was better than another.
And you have to get this. This work isn't just about pointing fingers at the past. It is fundamentally about the future. It's about actively building a whole new visual language, a new grammar for beauty that comes directly from African points of view.
In the end, art becomes this incredible space for both fighting back and for healing. It's a place where the power to define yourself for yourself is being fought for and it's being won.
And that just leaves us with this one last powerful thought to chew on. We've seen how art is being used to decolonize something as deep and personal as beauty. So the question is, what else? What other parts of our world, our histories, and our futures can be reclaimed by these same amazing acts of creative defiance?